Hundreds of people gathered Friday evening outside Seville Quarter here in downtown Pensacola before the start of the 15th annual Emerald Coast Beer Festival. Hello everyone, I'm Sean Dugan with the Pensacola News Journal and PNJ.com. As I said, I'm here at the 15th annual Emerald Coast Beer Festival, where more than 200 beers are being served by more than a dozen breweries throughout the Southeast and the United States. This is Pat Johnson. He's the president of the Escambia Bay Homebrewers, the group that puts on this event every year. And Pat, you guys have been doing this for 15 years, but this is a lot more than just beer drinking, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a lot more than beer drinking. Actually, it's 10 years as we know it today here at Seville. Prior to that, it was more like a wine tasting, and the homebrewers took it over about 10 years ago, and since then it's grown into what it is today. More than just a fun party, you betcha. We got nearly 300 different beers here, specialty beers, mostly craft beers. These are beers that, like they were in the old world, they're not for the mass consumption. I mean, you can go back and buy a 12-pack of your local ice beer and then have at it if you want to get drunk. But here's an opportunity to try some beers that you wouldn't normally try and find out the difference between a stout and a porter and an IPA. I mean, they're different as night and day. Most people drink one beer. What do you drink? I drink this, and that's all they drink. We like to think of it as like going out to eat. We don't want to eat Chinese every day, but we do love Chinese. So that's kind of the deal. We have our favorite beers, but we also like all the beers. And so we're asking people to try the different beers, and in small quantities. Mass consumption, I mean, you're not going to be able to try all 300 at one time anyway. But try to hone in on the ones you're trying to learn something about. Do tastings. Taste a little bit, savor a little bit. You know, if you're going to toss them back, you're not going to get the experience.
So it really is an educational experience as well as a drinking experience.
Well, you betcha. And we've got the brewers themselves here. You can network with them, ask them, what makes your beer special? Why should I buy your beer for $1 or $3 or $5 when I can go buy a 6-pack for 50 cents each? And let them explain it to you, and let them, better yet, show it to you and tell you why.
This is Mike Theobald, and he's with the Emerald Coasters Homebrewing Organization. Now, Mike, talk a little bit about the differences in these American-style ales that we're seeing, the APAs, the IPAs, the rye ales. What can people expect to taste differently in these kind of beers?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because there's actually quite a few differences between a number of the varieties that we have in pale ales. For instance, we have a rye APA, and there are a rye IPA, which is a rye India Pale Ale. Now the difference with a rye IPA is that a rye is an unusual grain used in brewing. It adds a little bit of tanginess to the pale ale that you would not normally find.
Shortly after 6 p.m., the streets in front of Seville Quarter were crowded, to say the least. This is Mark Robertson. He's the brewer at the Pensacola Bay Brewery, opening soon in Seville Square. Mark, talk a little bit about your Little Napoleon IPA and what people can expect when they try that beer.
Okay, we tried to brew a beer that was more approachable as an IPA than some of the beers out there. So I built them all back on up a little bit more and tried to use some balanced hops that will give you an impression that it's a comfortable beer to drink, but the IPA guys will really like it at the same time. So that's where we were trying to go with that, and I hope they all enjoy it.
About 7 p.m. Friday, as you can see here, hundreds of people had piled into the parking lot here behind Seville Quarter. All those tents you see are different brewers and beer distributors that are serving up wonderful 3-ounce samples of their finest craft beer.
I want to be a wild devil. Wild, you already are one. Sure.
Oh, you got. Oh, that's the good stuff right there, though.
The bottom of it.
All that yeast is wonderful.
And what is this beer you're pouring here, man?
This is Victory Wild Devil. It's a Belgian IPA. It's the Victory Hop Double recipe, but it's brewed with 2 different kinds of wild yeast strains.
Okay. Now,
Nice and tart and tangy.
I have to ask, tell me what it tastes like after you give it a sip.
Girl.
Very good. A bit
bit sour, a bit sweet.
I like it.
A hint of some sort of maybe a little bit of berry, a little.
Interesting, interesting.
Everybody's balanced.
What is your name, dear?
Allie.
Allie, certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, very good.
What is your name, man?
My name is Cameron.
Cameron, now can you talk about where those flavors come from? Those sweeter flavors that she was describing there in that beer.
This beer is brewed with 2 different kinds of wild yeast strains. One is a little more dormant, so they kind of play off of each other. So they're just kind of reenacting off of it. Toss a little more wort in there, some sugar water, so they start playing off each other. The bottle is it's a bottle conditioned beer. So
now what does that mean, bottle conditioned?
Bottle conditioned. We just put we add yeast and sugar water, wort in there.
What does that do for the beer?
It just continues to carbonate itself, changes it all the time. So this bottle is continually changing itself. So month to month, year to year, it'll become different.
Interesting.
It's a bottled on day, so pretty fun beer. Give it a try.